Welcome to Third Eye Weekly. With us today is Justin Chang, a PhD student in computer science at Stanford University, who has helped create an online algorithm for tracking trolls online. Thank you so much for joining us today, Justin.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, in this study founded by Google, you and your research team spent 18 months analyzing the comment section of websites like CNN.com and IGN.com. How did you come up with a definition for what the quote-unquote troll commentator would be?
So this is really it's a difficult question really to answer. So what we basically do is we actually sidestep the problem. So the issue is that in many cases, trolls mean very different things to different people, and depending on who you're talking to and the research you're reading. For example, a troll could be as specific as someone who is trying to pretend to be a regular user for a while, and then after they've earned the trust of other users, then they start destroying the community from the inside out. Other people may define trolls as those which are just simply like swearing all the time. And so there are lots of these definitions that we came across. So we decided to try to step away from those definitions and instead focus on the people who actually had action get focus on people that were actually banned from these communities, because in this case we have this human signal, a strong human signal of someone who isn't one in the community. And while this may not capture every single troll, we probably think of these sets of users as very similar.
So you also kind of figured out how people navigate themselves online. Start off as just sort of making comments, and then eventually people sort of backlash at them, and it's a large negative reaction. Can you tell me a little bit about the evolution of some trolls you found?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you anymore for some reason.
It's all right. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to know a little bit more about the evolution of trolls online. As you guys are tracking them, it seems like they have a kind of a pattern in how they react online.
The evolution of trolls. So in a sense, at least in the paper, what we find is that there are two types of trolls, at least as far as we can tell. So there are people who are just trolls like through and through, like from the beginning they're trolls, at the end of their life they're trolls, and maybe even more troll-like than before. And there are other users who like start out kind of regular, and then after a while they get into a fight, and then they get into a heated argument, and then things get said, and then they eventually get banned. And so in a sense here, there are these two different types of users, but at the same time, the community also has an effect on users in general, right? Not just trolls, but just all users, right? So for example, if you like write regularly on one of these forums, and then if a moderator just comes and deletes all your posts, kind of intuitively what happens is that you get angry and you start to write worse over time. So in a sense that this negative backlash against a troll can on average cause users to actually write worse as well.
So how do you think the algorithm would be able to help prevent trolls?
Sorry, I didn't catch that again. Somehow the mic's coming up. Not really.
No? How about now?
Yes, now it's better.
Okay, cool. So how do you think the algorithm will be able to be used in the future to help prevent trolls once you've already identified them?
So is the question, what do we do after we identify the trolls?
Yeah. How will you be able to use the algorithm to help prevent them once you've identified them?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. No. It's kind of difficult to hear.
Once you identify the trolls with the algorithm, how do you guys use that algorithm to prevent trolls from getting on these sites?
So I guess that would be, outside of the scope of the research paper. So I guess that also really depends on how the algorithm is being used. What we see is that maybe it could be a first filter to identify candidate users whom actual human moderators might want to look closer at. for example, to cut out a lot of this work in like filtering out most people. So you have this filter which will tell you like, oh, this person is posting a lot more frequently, or it's like posting a lot in these few sets of threads. Maybe you want to look more into there and try to figure out what's going on there. Since these algorithms aren't perfect, it's like 80% accurate. So sometimes it does make mistakes. So that's where we see that it's going. It's not like completely replacing these moderators, but like maybe helping to make the job a bit easier.
There are some people that mention trolls as positive things that can get people to engage and be active on a site and also be a part of freedom of speech. Do you think it's beneficial to completely get rid of trolls?
I guess it really depends on the goal of the community. Some communities are more subversive than others. You might think of things like 4chan or maybe to some extent Reddit, and then there are some maybe sites where the content owners want like very civilized discussions, right? Like maybe if you have something like on the official government forum or maybe on CNN, but who knows, depending on what the goals are. And really like you can identify trolls, and whether you want to remove them from the community is really up to you. Other people have also talked to me and they've said, oh yeah, trolls are actually really fun to read, right? I mean, there's a lot of trolling happening on Reddit as well, and sometimes it's funny, right? They post something snarky and then it's like, oh, that's kind of clever. Yeah, I think those things are probably having no trolls at all would probably make discussions kind of boring. So, but I guess there's some types of trolling that I figure that are really not very constructive in most cases. Like if you're just swearing or if you're just like getting angry at people, right? So we want to have a civilized discussion, and so this algorithm doesn't really try to discriminate against all these different things. It just tries to take everything into account and it tries to replicate what a human will do in that case. So in a sense, it really depends.
So out of all the sites that you guys checked out, which one had the most troll infestation?
The most troll infestation. I mean, you get very different types of trolls depending on the forums that you go on. For example, something we noticed was that on IGN, the gaming news website, there was a lot more swearing going on than on CNN. So that's something interesting that happens. And also really like the rate of trolling, we can't like observe it directly. It also depends on how vigilant the moderators are. So like the more people they ban, then the more users that seem to be trolls. So again, as we look through our data as well, there are a lot of users who are not banned and like not in the data that we consider that also seem to be pretty much doing troll-like behavior, maybe just not as often, not as frequently. So you can't really say like which of these have the most trolls. You do know that they all have trolls at the very least.
Justin, have you ever been online and suddenly checked yourself and realized, oh my God, I'm being a troll right now? Or are you completely guilt-free of troll-like things?
I don't know. The interesting thing is that like doing this kind of social media research, it turns out that you don't have as much time to actually write stuff yourself. So most of the time I end up being a lurker, so I read all these things, and I guess that was kind of the motivation for the research. It's like you're always tempted to like go read the comments, right? After you read a news article, see what people think, what people thought about it. And sometimes you get this useful comments and some interesting insights, but a lot of the time there's also like these like terrible arguments and fights that people get into, and it's like, what? Why is it like this? And can we do anything to make this better and make people actually want to read the comments instead of not?
You also found that some trolls can redeem themselves. Can you describe a little bit more about what that is?
So some trolls can be, what did you say?
Is that right? Some trolls they create a negative energy and then they say they're sorry and the community kind of forgives them and it's okay.
Sorry, I didn't really get the question. I couldn't really hear it. Sorry.
Okay. Can the trolls ever redeem themselves?
Right. Right. So we didn't do a lot of research into understanding how trolls redeem themselves. We do know that that does happen over time, and the opposite can happen as well, where there are some users who actually do get worse over time, but even as they do not get blocked. And it will be really interesting to look at these users as well and try and figure out what's going on and how these people are getting better, especially the trolls who kind of redeem themselves, because this will help us figure out the strategies that we could use to maybe help other users as well walk down the righteous path for a specific community.
May we all find the righteous path. That's all the questions we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Justin. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.